The 4-day work week. Is it possible? Is it sustainable? Well, I have been testing this out for all of 2024. And in this episode, I'm going to share with you all of the details about how it went and whether I'm going to keep doing it into the future. So stay tuned. Welcome to the Do More, Stress Less podcast. I'm your host, Alexis Hasselberger, a time management and productivity coach. In every episode, I give you actionable, practical tips to help you learn to use your time in a way that feels good to you every day. No more hustling, scrambling, or struggling to keep your head above water. So let's dive in, and soon enough, you'll be doing more and stressing less. As you may or may not know, for all of 2024, I've been running an experiment, a big one, a 4-day work week experiment. Now, why did I call it an experiment? Because it was, and because I wasn't sure if I could make it work. I run a small business. I have a small team of very part-time contractors, but mostly it's just me. And I wasn't sure that I could cut off a day of my work week and still, support my family with my business. But now it's the end of the year. The experiment is over, and I am here to share with you the big reveal. And here it is. It worked. And I'm making the 4-day work week my new normal. Of course, I reserve the right to change my mind at any point in the future, but honestly, I can't see myself going back on this one. Now, it hasn't been all roses, that's for sure. I spent many years calibrating a 5-day work week to task realism. And task realism is this idea that we are planning for the time we have, not the time we wish we had. So I was pretty good at calibrating exact planning for only what could get done in a 5-day work week. And I was humbled that it took me almost half the year to recalibrate to a 4-day work week on a regular basis, to recalibrate to the point where I was not overscheduling myself or overcommitting myself every single week. It took a while, but I did it. I did it. And I've got to say, I've really enjoyed it for the most part. The trade-offs, and of course, there are trade-offs, were worth it to me in the end. And I want to share with you my reflections on this year in case you ever find yourself in a position to experiment with a 4-day work week as well, or with any kind of schedule change. So, first, I want to share what was hard. So, the hardest thing for me was setting the boundary for Fridays. It was really hard to tell my very busy clients that I couldn't meet with them on Fridays, even if that was the only day that was available to them. And I gotta say, I did make an exception twice. It was also really hard to recalibrate my workload. As I just shared, it took me almost 6 months to reliably recalibrate my workload to plan for a 4-day work week every week where I was not overloading myself or having to push things into the next week. It took me about 6 months to do that. It was really hard to deal with the fact that working 20% less might mean that I would be earning less, right? That I would be less able maybe to support my family, right? Now, I wouldn't have done this if I wasn't able to support my family. But that was a really hard one to deal with, right? I don't do this, I don't do what I do for the money or because of the money, but it's an important part of it. It's, we all have to work to live. Now, I'm going to shift to what I loved, right? What I loved about a 4-day work week. So I loved the clarity of having a day every week where I knew I could schedule doctor's appointments for myself or my kids and not worry about what I'd need to move around to make it happen. And there were lots of doctor's appointments as I have continued treatment to prevent cancer recurrence. And, in October, my son broke both of the bones in one of his arm, needing surgery and needing to have a metal plate put in his arm and all of the follow-up appointments from that. So that was a lot, right? And it was really nice just to have that day where I knew I could schedule appointments on that day and I didn't have to move anything around, ask any clients if they could move stuff, etc. I also really loved having a day where I could sleep in just a little bit where no one else was home, right? Now, if you are a parent, you know that it's not like the weekends are just, oh, they're free of obligation, right? If you've got kids like me, then you know that the weekends are going to be filled with your kids needing stuff too and lovely and having time together, but also having a day to sleep in where no one was there was really great, really great. Um, It was also really nice to have intentional time set aside to have lunch with people. So when my husband was home, we would go out to lunch on Fridays, or sometimes I would schedule lunch with friends or with colleagues. It was just really nice to have this time knowing that I had time. I didn't have to move things around. I wouldn't have to rush back, etc. And then what I really, 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 really loved was having these languid Friday afternoons to spend at the pottery studio. And I love doing pottery. I wish I could spend, all of my time there, but alas, I cannot. But it was really nice to be able to spend Friday afternoons there. Now, why did this work for me, right? Why did this 4-day work week work for me? So I am kind of an all or nothing person when it comes to my time. I like having days of, as much freedom as is possible, juxtaposed with days that are quite full, right? I don't like having kind of, I don't like moving, I guess I don't like moving from things or to things in a way that feels like there's almost too much time between them because I tend to get lost in that. So I like this kind of back to backs juxtaposed with nothing, right? Or I like working hard all day and then knowing that after 6 p.m. I'm not going to log in. I really like that. That works for me. I am what you call a hard segmenter, where I really like to have days that are all work and days that are all play. And I don't love mixing the two so much. The 4-day work week allows me to do even more of this. So Monday through Thursday, I am all in with work. I am working from, when I get up until 5 or 6 p.m. And then I have 3 days where I get to focus on the rest of my life. And I've been trying really hard to make sure that the things that I would have normally put kind of in the middle of the week, I'm shifting those to Friday so that I have that separation, which works for me. So what's next? I'm going to keep on keeping on with this 4-day work week for the foreseeable future. And I'm even starting to see a far off goal, one where I would actually flip the balance. I'm starting to think, what if I could have 3 days a week dedicated to work and 4 days a week dedicated to the rest of my life? This feels radical. It feels indulgent a little bit. I'm not quite sure I could do it, but maybe in a few years. So, what about you? Are there any changes that you're thinking about, big or small, that would radically change the way you experience your day to day? Are there any changes, big or small, that you want to experiment with in your 2025 schedule? If so, now is a fantastic time to start thinking about what the next steps could be for your own experiment. And that's a wrap on today's episode of the Do More, Stress Less podcast. If you found today's episode helpful, please share it with somebody who could use a little less stress in their life. And make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're excited to take action or you need a little extra support, check out the free resources available on my website or schedule a free consultation call with me. You can do both of these at alexishasselberger.com. See you next time.